day in history. Death is beaten, you have rescued me. Sing it out, Jesus is alive. The empty cross, the empty grave, life eternal, you have won the day. Shout it out, Jesus is alive. He's alive. Oh, happy day, happy day. You washed my sin away. Oh, happy day, happy day. I'll never be the same. Forever I am changed. When I stand in that place, free at last, meeting face to face, I am yours, Jesus, you are mine. Endless joy, perfect peace, earthly pain finally will cease. Celebrate, Jesus is alive. He's alive. Oh, happy day, happy day. You washed my sin away. Oh, happy day, happy day. I'll never be the same. Forever I am changed. And oh, what a glorious day. What a glorious way that you have saved me. Oh, what a glorious day. What a glorious name. Yeah. Oh, happy day, happy day. You washed my sin away. Oh, happy day, happy day. I'll never be the same. Oh, happy day, happy day. You washed my sin away. Oh, happy day, happy day. I'll never be the same. Forever I am changed. Oh, what a glorious day. I'll never be the same. Let's praise him this morning. Amen. Well, thank you for joining us on this special day, this Resurrection Sunday. We're so glad that you're all here today. Luke, can I have a little bit of that in the monitor, please? We're here because God's not dead. He's alive. We celebrated and we remembered Good Friday and what that meant, and how God sent his son because he loves us so much. But it didn't end there, which is the wonderful thing. He's alive, and that's what we're celebrating today. So as we sing these songs, let's sing it from our heart. Let's proclaim it, that he is alive. Let the darkness flee. It's got no power over me, and I have been set free. God is alive. Death, where is your sting? Sin has got no hold on me, 'cause I am free indeed. God is alive. We've been redeemed. So rise and sing, everyone, glorify the risen Son. The Holy One has overcome. Jesus is alive. The enemy is broken underneath his feet. Death is crushed in victory. Jesus Jesus is alive. Let us wake and rise. Lift your voices, lift your eyes. We're gonna shout, we're gonna shake the skies, 'cause God is alive. We've been redeemed, so rise and sing. Everyone, glorify the risen Son. The Holy One has overcome. Jesus is alive. The enemy is broken underneath his feet. Death is crushed in victory. Jesus is alive. Oh, Jesus is alive. The empty grave is singing now. It's shouting out. He is alive. He is alive. And we are free. The empty grave is singing now. It's shouting out. He is alive. He is alive. And we are free. We've been redeemed. So rise and sing. Everyone, glorify the risen Son. The Holy One has overcome, 'cause Jesus is alive. The enemy is broken underneath his feet. Death is crushed in victory. Oh, Jesus is alive. So everyone, let's glorify the risen Son. The Holy One has overcome. Jesus is alive. The enemy is broken underneath his feet. Death is crushed in victory. Jesus is alive. Oh, Jesus is alive. Amen. Glorify him. Thank you, Jesus. So on Good Friday, we remembered what Jesus did for us, that he died for you and he died for me. He paid a debt he did not owe, and we owed a debt that we couldn't pay. So he took our debt with him on the cross. But today, we celebrate that he's risen. He's risen from the dead. What does that mean for you and I? Jesus is alive. He is the resurrection and the life. He is the way, the truth, and the life. And no one comes to the Father except through him. So by opening up our hearts to him, inviting him in to be the Savior of our soul and the leader of our life, then we too are alive in Christ. Cast my mind to Calvary, where Jesus bled and died for me. I see his wounds, his hands, his feet, my Savior on that cursed tree. His body bound and drenched in tears, they laid him down in Joseph's tomb, the entrance sealed by heavy stone, Messiah still and all alone. Oh, praise the name of the Lord our God. Oh, praise his name forevermore. On the third, at break of dawn, the Son of Heaven rose again. Oh, trample death, where is your sting? The angels roar for Christ the King. Oh, praise the name of the Lord our God. Oh, praise his name forevermore. For endless days we will sing your praise. Oh Lord our God. He shall return in robes of white. The blazing sun shall pierce the night. I will rise among the saints, my gaze transfixed on Jesus' face. Oh, praise the name of the Lord our God. Oh, praise his name forevermore. For endless days we will sing your praise. Oh Lord our God. Oh, praise the name of the Lord our God. Oh, praise his name forevermore. For endless days we will sing your praise. Oh Lord our God. Oh Lord our God. Let's praise him this morning. Amen. You can be seated.
Good morning. I want to welcome our Richland Center family. Thanks for joining us. And those of you who are watching online, wherever you're at, happy Easter. And to those of you here in Dodgeville, thanks for joining us. I got one question that I just want to ask before I start this. So what should we talk about this morning? You know, you'd be surprised how many pastors, when it comes to Easter, they ask that question, what should I talk about? And let me tell you a little bit about why this happens to some of us. Because, you know, there's something about standing in front of a group of people and you know what you're going to talk about, but they don't know. You know, it feels kind of good. For example, starting next Sunday, we're going to do a series, and the series is called Atomic Habits. You want to know what that's about? Yeah, I'm not going to tell you. No, it's about these little habits in life and they're really the small things that if we were to incorporate them and start to live them out, they'd make a huge difference, like, atomic power. So I would encourage you to come back next week and the week after and the week after, because we're going to look at really small changes that we can make in our lives that make big differences. It's not always a big difference. But we pastors, we like that. We like knowing that when we come out here on a Sunday morning, we have something to say, and you don't know a lot about it. So I asked the question, what should we talk about on Easter Sunday morning? What topic could I possibly come up with that's going to surprise you, that's going to wow you, that's going to cause your jaw to drop? Because here's the truth, if we're really honest about Easter. We all know some of the details already. We have a hint. At least we think we kind of know some of the things that happened. The story, honestly, it doesn't surprise us a lot. We know the big reveal on Easter Sunday morning, right? The big reveal is this: the tomb is empty. And when we say that in the year 2023, nobody's jaw drops. Nobody says, "Are you kidding me? No way, that doesn't happen." Nobody says that. Because we may not have all the details, but we kind of know the story. We know the surprise. So we called this series The Greatest Comeback Ever Told. We started last Sunday, and then we did Good Friday, and then today, The Greatest Comeback, Jesus. And here's the thing. The story of Jesus, his life and what happened, it doesn't feel like a comeback to most of us. Because think about it in sports. What's a comeback? When you think about, and not all of us are sports, but when you think about a comeback in sports, they kind of go something like this. One team falls hopelessly behind. And you're set. If you're at the stadium, you're ready to leave and go home, beat the parking and the traffic and all that good stuff. Or you're sitting there watching it and you're ready to turn the channel because it's over. And suddenly things gain momentum. And things change. And you're on the edge of your seat. And somewhere out of nowhere, the team that was way behind, they win. And your jaw drops. And you're like, no way. I can't believe I just saw that. And you go to work the next day and you say to somebody at work, did you see what happened? Yeah, I couldn't believe it. It was amazing. But we don't do that with the story of Jesus. Because we know the punchline, we know the stories, we know the big surprise. Our jaws don't drop. It doesn't feel like a comeback. So we're going to do two things today, and they're real simple. The first one is we're going to try to prove that, the story of Jesus, what he did that Sunday morning, it was a comeback. And maybe your jaw won't drop, but that's okay. It was still a comeback. But really, even more important than that is why does Jesus' comeback, why does it matter? Because when you think about comebacks in other areas of life, particularly in sports, your team comes back and you're so thrilled they won that game somehow, and then they lose the next game. And the comeback, you'll remember, and it's a great story, but over time it fades, and it's not as important, and you want them to win again, and they did it in the past, and you're not sure if you'll ever see a comeback like that again, and it becomes a distant memory. Jesus' comeback is not a memory. It's not a great story to make us feel warm and fuzzy. It's not something that over time is meant to lose its value. We want him to come and do it again. We need a new, see it again or something. We're going to figure out, does it still matter today? Does what Jesus did matter today? Is it more than just a faded memory? But we're going to start with that first question. Is it really a comeback? Did what happened ever cause anybody's jaws to drop? Did anybody ever say, I can't believe what I'm seeing? Did anybody ever look at, poke the person next to him or go to their neighbor and say, you got it, something's happening here, it's crazy, you got to hear about this? Can I tell you what was happening on Easter 1 or Easter 0? I don't know what you'd call it. But you want to know what wasn't happening that day, that morning? Here's what wasn't happening. There were no people gathering in churches singing something called "Oh, Happy Day." That was the furthest thing from people's mind. There weren't people who were gathered at a tomb, something like New Year's Eve with a countdown clock going 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Jesus. That didn't happen either. And that first Easter, there were no kids who were allowed to eat chocolate bunnies for breakfast. By the way, any kids, raise your hand if mom and dad let you do that, because we'd like to shame them. When I was a kid, I was hopped up on Peeps on Easter Sunday, and then we had to go to church and expect me to sit there. That wasn't happening. Those things didn't happen the first Easter. You didn't go home, get a basket, and whatever your Easter tradition is and stuff. It didn't happen. Can I tell you 3 things that were going on that first morning? The first one is this, and we kind of briefly mentioned it last week, but nobody expected nobody. People weren't sitting around on Friday evening, Saturday morning, Sunday morning saying to themselves, that Jesus, I bet he's going to rise from the dead. I'll bet that grave is going to be empty. Nobody said that. Nobody thought that. The second thing was happened is really discouraging when you think about it. It's this. Hope was a thing of the past. And a lot of us know from our own experiences, when hope is a thing of the past, that's incredibly discouraging. Because hope is that's kind of what keeps us going sometimes. And it wasn't there that day. And the third thing, they all knew this to be true. Dead people are supposed to stay dead. There were those rare exceptions. A few people had come in contact with Jesus. But when the person who raised the dead back to life is now the dead one, not a lot of hope. Dead people usually stay dead. It wasn't like our Easter. There wasn't excitement. They needed a comeback. They had talked about Jesus' death before. And there were people who, the camp was kind of divided on the death of Jesus. There were people who were pessimists. There were people who were optimists. One of the pessimists, just a few days before they actually went to Jerusalem, when they were a couple miles away from Jerusalem, the pessimist Thomas said this about the death of Jesus. Thomas called the twin and said to his fellow disciples, "Let's also go that we may die with him." He's going to go to Jerusalem. We know what's going to happen there. He's going to die. We might as well go with him. We'll die too. Well, that sounds cheery. He's pretty sure Jesus was going to die. On the optimist side of things, there were people who were so impressed with who Jesus was and have seen some of his miracles and seen some of his power. There is no way Jesus is going to die. And you know, one guy who falls into this category was a man named Peter. He actually confronted Jesus when Jesus talked about dying. And this is what Peter said to him. Jesus, this will never happen to you. Yeah, you're just not going to die, Jesus. So, you know, his followers were kind of divided. Yeah, he's probably going to die because everybody dies. Not this guy. He's not going to die. But there's no idea, no thought, no clue. He'll die and then rise again. One of Jesus' followers, he says a phrase on that Sunday morning that kind of summed up how everybody felt. And there's no mention of bunnies or peeps or family dinners or potatoes or ham or whatever it is you're going to eat. This is what he said. His name's Cleopas. He said this in Luke 24. We had hoped that he was the one. We had hoped that he was the one. Even that morning when Jesus had risen from the dead, they still weren't sure what to do with an empty tomb. I mean, what do we do? Mary, who went to the grave because she wanted to take care of the body, was open, and she saw a gardener there, and she assumed what every single one of us would have assumed in John 20. She said, they've taken away my Lord, and I don't know where they laid him. Someone took him. She didn't think, oh, he's risen from the dead. Somebody took his body. Where'd they put him? That same Cleopas, he was talking, and there was evidence growing that Jesus was alive, but he still wasn't buying it. Because he says this, some women of our company amazed us. They were at the tomb early in the morning, and when they did not find his body, they came back saying that he had even seen a vision of angels who said that he was alive. Some of those who were with us went to the tomb and found it just as the woman had said, but him they did not see. So he's heard the details. He's still not sure. And by the way, irony of ironies, when Cleopas said this, you know who he was talking to? He was talking to Jesus. He had so little hope that he was standing face to face with Jesus and didn't recognize him. And then that pessimist, Thomas, even after all the rest of the followers had seen Jesus, he hadn't been around, but he'd heard so many people had seen Jesus. He kind of sums up the way a lot of us would feel about somebody rising from the dead, because he says this in John 20. Unless I see in his hands the marks of the nails and place my finger into the marks of the nails and place my hand into his side, I will never believe. I don't care if the guy looks like him. I've got to be able to do this and do this, or I'm just not going to believe. Easter 2023 is drastically different than Easter 1. They needed a comeback. And I mean, you think about, in sports, what defines a comeback? What makes a comeback really something that's memorable, that's worthy of like, wow, awesome? There's really three things. One of it is this: nobody expects that team to win. They're so far behind. It's football and they're behind by 4 touchdowns with 1.5 minutes left. It's basketball and they're losing by 10 with 10 seconds. Nobody thinks they're going to win. Jesus was in a grave. Everybody saw him die. Nobody thought he was coming back to life. The second thing is nobody has hope that they will win. Your favorite team, you're ready to turn the channel off. You have something better to do, like, I don't know, clip your toenails. It's better than watching your team lose. Nobody wanted to see Jesus lose. And then the last one is, we say this about our teams when it's a done deal. The team is dead in the water, right? Jesus was dead in a grave. You know what happened on the first Easter that didn't happen this Easter? Jaws dropped. Jaws dropped. People rubbed their eyes. People said, "What did you just say? Do you know what you just said? Are you sure? I'm not going to believe it until I see it. No, I mean, I like you, but no, that couldn't have happened." Jesus is the greatest comeback ever. But the really important question, does Jesus' comeback matter today? Because we can probably come up with a story, your favorite team when they came back, I'm not going to bring up the fact that this year the Vikings were losing 35-0 halftime, come back and won. It was the greatest comeback in NFL history. It just slipped out, sorry. But you know what? Comebacks become faded memories. Because after they did that, they lost. And you can have a great comeback story about your team or a great comeback story about this event, and they just become memories. And Jesus is so much more than a memory. So why does this detail, an empty grave, really matter today? There's 3 reasons. The first one is this. The story of Easter proves this. Nobody is a nobody. Nobody is a nobody. We kind of live in a society where everything's disposable, reusable, recyclable, and that's kind of a good thing. We dispose of our dishes, we recycle our plastics, we replenish this, we repackage things. And some of us, we feel like we are disposable, we're recyclable, we're reusable, and we feel that way about other people too. It would just be easy to repackage, recycle, reuse, dispose. It's kind of what we feel about one another sometimes, and we feel that about ourselves. But you know what the resurrection of Jesus proves? Nobody is a nobody. Nobody's recyclable. Nobody's reusable, disposable, replaceable. Early on in this book, and when I say early on, I'm talking to like page 2. God says something about how valuable you are. There's this account of creation, and God did over each day, and each day God made something, and he said it's good. He made the stars, it's good. He made the sun, it's good. He made mountains, he made lakes, he made streams, he made animals, good, 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 good. And then he gets to the 6th day, and it says this in Genesis 1:31. Whatever God made on the 6th day, it's very good. If you want to impress your friends and family, the Hebrew, it's this cool little phrase. It says, Tov Ma'od. You know what he made on the 6th day that is Tov Ma'od? That's when he made you and me. From day 1, you have not been recyclable, disposable, replaceable. You are very good. And then in what's maybe the most famous verse in the Bible, Jesus tells why he came to earth. He says this, for God so loved the world. And that word world, it's not talking about the thing that spins around. It's about the people. The you and me and him and her and them and they and the people I disagree with, the people who look different, that me think differently. Those things. For God so loved those people that he gave his only son, that whoever believes in him should not perish, but have everlasting life. Jesus didn't die and rise again because he cared for nobody. He cared for somebody. He cared for you and for me. I mean, he would have been a fool if he had died for people who were reusable, recyclable, and disposable. But that's not who you are. And by the way, when God called people tov ma'od, very good, he wasn't necessarily saying that you and I always do the good thing, the right thing, the best thing. He's just talking about your value. You are really valuable to God. Even when you mess up, even when I come up short, you're really valuable. Jesus wasn't a fool. You don't die for recyclable. You don't get raised from the dead for reusable and disposable. The other reason that the resurrection of Jesus is really important, you know how hope was the thing of the past? It's because now hope is a thing of the present and the future. There's a huge difference between living your life saying, I hope, or saying, I hoped, with a D on the end. It's a hard life when you always say, I hoped. I wanted. It never happened. You know, most of us, maybe all of us, we don't need a comeback as dramatic as Jesus, you know, from death to life. We don't need a comeback that dramatic. But you know what some of us would like? We'd like a comeback of joy in our lives. Some of us like that. I'd like a comeback of joy. I'd like a comeback of some peace. I'd like a comeback of some rest. I'd like a comeback of some relationships. We just need a comeback. Maybe not on the same scale as Jesus, but we would like a comeback. We'd like a comeback of something. And one of Jesus' followers, a man named Paul, who kind of knew something about comebacks, said something pretty amazing about Jesus in Romans 6:11. The Spirit of God who raised Jesus from the dead lives in you. That's pretty amazing. What caused Jesus to come back from death to life, the Spirit of God, lives in his followers. You know what that means? There is something called hope. There is a possibility of a comeback. Whether it's a relationship, whether it's joy, whether it's peace, all those good things, there's hope. You don't have to put the D on the end of it. It's not game over. The clock hasn't struck 0 or midnight or whatever story you want to use. Game's not over yet. There's hope. And it's not just hope for the present, by the way, either, that Jesus offers us. There is something about the future, this hope that we have, because another one of his followers, Peter, the one who didn't think Jesus was going to die, he said this, here's what your hope in the future. You get an inheritance that is imperishable, undefiled, and unfading, kept in heaven for you. What God has for you in heaven is not recyclable, not disposable, not replaceable. It's imperishable, undefiled, and unfading. When Jesus rose from the dead, hope became something for the present and something for the future. It's not a past. And by the way, I get it because I feel it. We kind of live in a culture where we could use a dose of hope. I mean, you don't have to check the news or listen to someone. We could use a dose of hope. Hope came at the resurrection. There's a third thing about the resurrection that really matters for you and I. It's really, really important. And it's this. It's dead doesn't stay dead. Dead doesn't stay dead. You know, there's a lot of us who feel like there's parts of our lives that are dead. We're in a dead end this, a dead end that, a dead this is over, this dead doesn't stay dead in the resurrection. Jesus literally said this about himself before he died, and then he went out and proved it, but this is what he said in John 11. I am the resurrection and the life. Whoever believes in me, though he die, yet shall he live. And everyone who lives and believes in me shall never die. Do you believe this? And he kind of goes death, dead, life, 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 life. You know what he's really saying? There is something more after death. You know, we often talk about the two certainties in life, death and taxes. By the way, April 15th is coming up really close. That's my little encouragement to you. But there's something else that's a certainty. There's death, taxes, and there's life. And that's what Jesus offers. But he doesn't just offer afterlife. If you've been around Hidden Valley Church for any amount of time, you've heard me say this verse over and over and over again because I love this verse. But John 10:10 says this. This is Jesus speaking. I've come that they might have life and have it more abundantly. Jesus didn't just live and die and rise again so you can have an afterlife. You know what that verse says? He also wants a better life for you. A better life. Right now, here, today, on Monday, on Tuesday, on Wednesday. Not just an afterlife down here, but a better life. A life with more joy, a life with more hope, a more purpose, a little bit richer, not finances, but you know what I mean. A life that's got a little bit more. So here's what Easter did for you and me. It was a comeback because nobody expected nobody. But it also teaches us this. Nobody is a nobody. Your value is so high in God's eyes that he sent his son to live, to die, and then he rose again so you could have a relationship with him. That's how valuable you are. Not the person sitting next to you exclusively, but you. On that first Sunday, hope was a thing of the past. We had hoped. That's a horrible way to live. But the resurrection of Jesus proves that in 2023, hope is a today thing and a future thing. Jesus did something that dead people don't do. He didn't stay dead. And there's stuff in our lives that sometimes it feels dead, or that's a dead end, or Jesus came to you for an afterlife and a better life. You know another thing that happened on that first Easter? You know, the story started to spread that I think he's alive. The grave is empty. No one seems to have stole the body. More and more people are telling the story. So you know what happened? Some people believed that day, that moment, Jesus is alive. And if that's you, maybe for the first time in your life, in a few moments when we close in prayer, you simply tell God, I believe Jesus came and died in my place. But you know what else happened? Is not everybody on that day believed in Jesus. Some of them did this. What? I don't understand. I don't get it. I'm not sure yet. I need to see with my own eyes. I need to see. And if that's you, that's okay. You don't have to believe right away, because not everybody believed right away on that day. But if you're new to Christianity, and this idea that a man named Jesus made the greatest comeback in history, and he did it for you, if that idea kind of like is intriguing or interesting, here's what I would encourage you to do. I would encourage you to come back next Sunday, and the Sunday after, and the Sunday after. I would encourage you, you got a program when you walk through the door, and you'll see in there there's we've kind of been holding off, but after this Sunday, we got a lot of things all of a sudden happening in this church, and they're all really cool. I would encourage you to get yourself involved in a couple of them. We're going to be doing in a couple of weeks on Tuesday nights, and it's only going to last for about a month. We're going to do this, a little study. Why can I trust this book? Because a lot of Christianity is about this book and what's in it. So if you're not sure, and if you have questions about this book, come to the class. I think we called it Take a Look at the Book. Just come and explore. For those of you who don't know, on the third Tuesday of the month, we do this thing called Ruby's Pantry, and you're like, I've never heard of Ruby's Pantry, and that's fine. But the third Tuesday of the month, a semi pulls all this food into our parking lot, and we sell these big, we call them shares, but it's like a couple $100 worth of food for $25. And we always are looking for volunteers and people to rub shoulders with us and help put these baskets together for people. So come out and help. Just hang around with other people. Because you know what happened after Jesus came to life? And some people believed, and some people it took them some time, and some people they really struggled and they wondered. They hung out together and they learned together. Not everybody believed that day. It takes some time. Because, when a comeback is really good, when it's really amazing, you do kind of rub your eyes. You mean Jesus died for me? That's amazing. I'm not a nobody? That's amazing. Comebacks don't always make sense. You kind of have to digest. Okay, he did do that. It does matter. So here's what I would encourage you to do. If you, for the first time, understand that Jesus died for you, and you're not going like this, you actually get it, we're going to pray, and you can just pray with me in a couple moments. But if you're still struggling and you're still rubbing your eyes and I can't believe that, that doesn't make sense. Keep thinking, keep considering. Comebacks don't always make sense. Sometimes you need a little more evidence. When you were at work that day and someone told you that such and such a team came back, you know what you went and did? You went and checked on the computer because you didn't trust what they said. That's okay. Look at the program. In a few moments, we're going to have some announcements. Listen carefully. Where can I come hang out with people and really figure out if this comeback story is for me? Because here's the amazing thing about Jesus' comeback. It was his comeback. But you and I are invited to be a part of it. We're not just spectators. Nobody is a nobody. Hope is a thing of the present and the future. And here's really, really great news. Dead doesn't stay dead. Let's pray. God, thank you. Thank you for what Jesus did. It is a comeback for all time. Nobody expected it. Nobody guessed it. Nobody dreamed it. Jesus accomplished it. And Lord, I pray if there's somebody watching or here present who maybe for the first time, they get the story, they get the comeback, and they realize it was for them, that they'd simply pray this: God, I thank you for sending Jesus. He died in my place. He rose again. I want to be a part of his comeback story. And Lord, I pray there are some people who are still rubbing their eyes because the story doesn't make sense, because not all comebacks make sense. Not all comebacks are easy. God, I pray that there'd be people who would have the courage, who would continue to explore and listen and learn, and that you would show up in unique ways in their life. Thank you, thank you, thank you for Jesus. In his name, amen.
Thank you, Pastor Scott. Good morning, everyone. Happy Easter. It's so good to be back and to see all your smiling faces this morning. So before we get started with announcements, I just want to thank all of those who brought in food for our breakfast this morning, and for our hospitality team who helped with all the serving and the cleaning up. It was a wonderful time to catch up with each other and meet our guests. Just a reminder that if you did bring in a dish, you can pick it up in the Club 45 room after the announcements. So our monthly serving focus for this month is called Erase the Slate. We are taking on the monumental task of eliminating student lunch debt in our local schools, because we believe that no child should have to worry about having a hot meal at lunchtime. So when the COVID pandemic hit, the federal government funded a program that allowed students to receive free meals, even those who were not previously eligible. However, recently, the federal government has declined to continue funding this program, and families have fallen behind. It is our goal in the next 2 months to raise $7,000 so that we can erase the slate of student lunch debt for families at the end of this school year. So we have decided on several ways that we hope to engage our communities into participating in this goal with us. So you can give financially by going to our website, hiddenbee.com. You can click on the calendar and events tab and click on the monthly serving focus. You can give directly to the monthly serving focus through this giving portal. You can also give with cash or check to the church. You can put this in your offering envelope and mark it for MSF, or you can put your spare change or cash into the donation jar found on the counter of the information center in the lobby. We also have 2 events planned to help us raise funds. Our first event will be during the Grilled Cheese Championship event being held at Harris Park on Saturday, April 29th. We will have a booth at the event where we will be selling baked goods. We're calling our booth Community Caring for Community, No Kid Hungry. We are asking you to consider to provide cookies or bars for us to sell. You can sign up and let us know what you'll be bringing by going to our website. Again, it's hiddenbee.com. Go to the calendar events tab and click on the bake sale tab. Would you like to help us during that day? We're going to be moving things from the church over to the pavilion in the morning, and it would be great to have a few extra hands that would help us set up and clean up. So let us know that you'd like to help by filling out the connections card that you were given this morning. We also have a second event planned for May 19th that we will be talking about in the near future, so stay tuned for that. So next Sunday, backed by popular demand, we are going to have a rousing hour of bingo in our Club 45 room after the service. There will be snacks available and fun prizes for our bingo winners. This is a great opportunity to invite your friends to join you for a great message and a fun hour of bingo. So please be thinking who you can invite to spend the morning with you next Sunday. If you're new to Hidden Valley and maybe wondering what we're all about, mark your calendar for Sunday, April 23rd, and join us for our Life in the Valley class immediately after the service. You will learn about Hidden Valley and our mission, and you will also have the opportunity to become a member if you so desire. The class will last about 2 hours, so you can sign up on that connections card that you were given today. Just give us your contact information and write Life in the Valley class. Or you can also email admin@hiddenbee.com and let us know that you're interested in attending. As we wrap up today, please fill out that connections card that you were given today. Let us know if you're a first-time attender. We would love to send you a small gift for joining us today. Let us know if you would like to receive our weekly newsletter or if you have a prayer request. Notice the question on the bottom of the page that asks this week, how can we help you in knowing God better? We would love to be able to help you on your spiritual journey. So you can drop your connections card and offering envelope into either of the offering boxes by the double doors as you leave today. Pastor Scott will be up front here after the service if you would like to meet him or have him pray with you this morning. If you're able, help us stack up the chairs before you leave. The chairs get stacked 8 high, and the legs do need to line up. There are trolleys here along the wall to move the stacks to the front and back wall. And just thank you for helping us put away these chairs so that the space can be used during the week. Take time to look at the announcement insert for the rest of the announcements. My name is Lori, and on behalf of the staff and volunteers here today, I want to thank you for joining us on this Easter morning. It is our hope that the service this morning has been a blessing to you. Take a minute to say hi to your neighbor. Learn someone's name today. Enjoy the rest of this beautiful day, and we hope to see you again next week.